Thank you,
Honorable Minister and Chair, and good evening, Honorable Ministers, good evening, Chief Secretary and members of the media, and welcome to this post-cabinet briefing. I'll hand you over to the Chief Secretary, to the President of Cabinet, Dr. Simanda.
Thank you very much, Secretary. Let me welcome one of you, the Chair, the Honorable Minister, your briefing to our 33rd post-cabinet press briefing. Without wasting any time, let me call upon the Chair to lead the press briefing.
Thank you very much, Chief Secretary, and once again, I want to welcome you to this 33rd post-cabinet press briefing. Today, I am with my ministers, colleague ministers. I've got the Minister of Defense and War Veterans Affairs, Honorable Osi Zinkurikashiri, and she's here as the chairperson of the ad hoc Interministerial Task Force on the COVID-19 outbreak. And then I do have the Minister of Transport and Infrastructural Development, Honorable J.B. Matiza, and they are ready to take your questions after the first briefing. Then I do have Minister of Higher and Tertiary Education, Innovation, Science and Technology Development, Honorable Professor Mugira, and then Minister of Industry and Commerce, Dr. Sekainzenza, Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, Honorable Matema. Thank you once again. Zimbabwe today, the Cabinet received an update on steps that are being taken to contain the COVID-19 pandemic, and this report was given by the Minister of Defense and War Veterans Affairs, Honorable Osi Zinkurikashiri, the chairperson of the ad hoc Interministerial Task Force on the COVID-19 outbreak. Cabinet was informed that the Experts Advisory Committee conducted a modeling exercise on current local and international COVID-19 data and noted that Zimbabwe epidemic has not peaked as previously predicted due to the control measures that have been put in place. The committee also concluded that the decreasing number of new infections is an indication of an epidemic coming under control. Cabinet, however, emphasizes that the public should continue being vigilant and shouldn't be complacent in adhering to COVID-19 containment measures, as the effect of COVID-19 will continue to be felt until a vaccine is found. Cabinet assures members of the public that there has not been increase in the death rate in Zimbabwe as alleged by some unsubstantiated social media reports. The Law and Order Subcommittee compiled and compared data from the Central Registry on the country's recorded deaths for the period January to August 2019 against the same period this year, 2020. The data revealed that more people, that's about 45,256, died in 2019 than in 2020, where we have 33,818 people who died, notwithstanding the threat of the COVID-19 pandemic. Cabinet notes that all the necessary measures are being taken to ensure that schools are reopened for examination classes in a safe environment. Progress has been made so far on the comprehensive logistical plan for the coordinated accelerated completion of the school's WASH project, the supply and distribution of PPE, hygiene kits, disinfectants, and infrared thermometers to all public schools. Most of the districts are reporting improved levels of preparedness by schools. Cabinet approved that a COVID-19 sentinel surveillance system be established in schools to monitor the behavior of the virus and make adjustments where necessary. There will also be dedicated Zupco buses to ferry learners to school for examinations. Cabinet is pleased to announce that Cambridge examination centers reopened successfully on 14th September 2020 and no health incidents were reported. In light of the high level of preparedness in the education sector, schools will be reopened in a phased manner. Phase 1 will open on September 28th. This will entail grade 7 from 6th and from 4th. open on 26th of October 2020 and will involve grade 6, Form 3 and 5. Finally, phase 3 will open on 9 November 2020, covering the rest of the learners, which covers ECGA and B, grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then Form 1 and 2. Cabinet further approved that the Traffic Safety Council of Zimbabwe and driving schools should resume services to enable the issuance of defensive driving certificates and other services to public service drivers and meter taxis. This is in order to facilitate the smooth functioning of intercity travel and other modes of transportation. Then, taking into cognizance that Zimbabwe is largely a religious nation, Cabinet has revised upwards the gatherings for churches, that is from 50 to 100. Cabinet nonetheless appeals to churches to ensure that congregants continue to observe COVID-19 containment measures by enforcing the compulsory and proper wearing of masks, practicing social distancing, and washing of hands. The Cabinet received a report also on the proposed localization of the product development, presented a proposal for the localization of the production of vehicle number plates and the development of an integrated national vehicle management as previously directed by Cabinet. Cabinet approval available. The selling price of one registration plate will be significantly reduced. The use of local materials will save the country's foreign currency and reduce the import bill by 56%. Currently, the country spends about 700,000 euros annually on importing number plates. Furthermore, employment will be created to the generality of Zimbabwe. The proposed number plates will have enhanced features which supersede the features of the current number plate but still maintain its compliance to SADC regulations. The objective of this project is to design and manufacture registration number plates that meet world design standards, that use radio frequency identification, tagging to optimize the use of road space, reduce non-compliance, enhance toll and parking authentication, combat vehicle crime, and fight terrorism. The country will also be developing its own efficient and secure integrated vehicle management software system that will modernize the country's national vehicle management to world-class standards. Given its short payback period and high rate of return, Cabinet decided that the project will be funded through a venture fund. Then Cabinet also received a report on the Zimbabwe Vulnerability Assessment Committee, ZIMVAC 2020 Rural Livelihood Assessment Report. Cabinet approved the Zimbabwe Vulnerability Assessment Committee, ZIMVAC 2020 Rural Livelihood Assessment Report, as presented by the Minister of Industry and Commerce on behalf of Honorable Vice President CGVN Chiwenga, who is the Chairman of the Cabinet Committee on Food Security and Nutrition. Cabinet noted that despite the natural disasters experienced by the country, such as drought, cyclone Lai, and now COVID-19, government has put in place an active response to the prevailing food and nutrition insecurity among rural livelihoods, with its support increasing to 76% in 2020, up from 73% in 2019. This is mainly through supporting vulnerable groups by distributing food aid and cash transfers, removing restrictions on food importation, such as the removal of import duty on maize and wheat, cooking oil, among many other basic commodities. In addition, government has put in place food subsidies through continued implementation of social protection measures to improve food access and employment creation through the employment of the vulnerable communities by engaging able-bodied drought relief participants under the Capital Development Project. Government has also remained the major source of crop input and food support, contributing 48% in that regard. Development partner support has also increased from the traditional 18% to 33%. The combination of efforts by government and development partners has seen the majority of districts receiving food aid being able to support the population. Zimbabwe is projected to be food insecure. Cabinet notes that the report will continue to be vital tool for informing and guiding policies and programs that respond to the prevailing food and nutrition security situation. And therefore, Cabinet directed that a rural industrialization strategy based on devolution will be crafted, taking into account value-addition of the indigenous foods and fruits that often offer respite to communities during periods of drought. And also that investment be made in infrastructure, particularly on internet connectivity in rural schools in order to equalize opportunities. Then finally, Cabinet received a report from the Honorable Vice President Chiwenga, Minister of Health and Childcare, and this is on the resumption of flights. Cabinet received an update report from Honorable Vice President Chiwenga on his weekend visit to take stock of preparedness of the airport and related infrastructure ahead of the resumption of international flights on 1st October 2020. Cabinet noted with satisfaction that the three airports visited, namely the Robert W. Mugabe International Airport, the Joshua Mukagongomo Airport, and Victoria Falls Airport, as well as hotels, are now ready to receive travelers in line with COVID-19 guidelines. The necessary guidelines and standard operating procedures for travelers will be announced by the sector as the date approaches. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Chair. And now we give you the opportunity to put questions to the first question just raised by the Honorable Chair. Any volunteer? Yes, at the back.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Muga Kulitani, Newsroom Africa. I've got two questions. One to the Minister of Primary and Further Education. Today, teachers have indicated that they are not going back to work due to lack of PPE as well as issues with their salaries. They say that they're earning less to afford them to go back to work. What is government going to do, given that already we're behind syllabuses and everything to get up for exams? What are the other plans for government to deal with this issue, which they said that they have declared a strike? Then I have to go to the Minister of Industry, who understands a report on the vulnerability. How many people are exposed to hunger and starvation in the country from the report? The report not state the number of people who are vulnerable to hunger as of now. Yes, you've read so many reports from the world, from the WFP and other agencies. But from government perspective, how many people are in need of food supplements between now and the next election? Thank you.
Okay. Yes, please.
Efrat Secure, SABC News. Chair, you indicated that there was a report to say the COVID-19 had not peaked as previously reported. But it seems the country is already reopening. Pretty much every other sector is now open. Does this not pose a risk to the citizens since the pandemic has not peaked for the country? Don't you think you're actually exposing people rather than keeping on being safe?
Okay. Yes, please.
John Kasimchano, Africa, SABC. My question is almost similar to what Kulitani said, but I'll give you an example of what is happening in some of the schools. I'll call this school A, is in Arai. It has 1,300 students. They are paying 900 RTGS per student, and that comes to about 1.1 million. They ended up receiving, or the last received, 8 cents from the parents in March. Some did not even pay, because parents are paying on installment. So they did not receive anything from us up to now. Out of 1,300 students, this school has got about 294 students coming back for examination. That's Form 6 and Form 4. And if they are still to pay $900 that they will pay, it's coming up to about 200,000. It's not even coming to about 1.1 million. Now the schools are saying, with 200-something thousand against the budget of 1.1 million, a school cannot offer it. They need cleaners at the school, they need PPEs, they need electricity, water, especially water is a requirement now for schools to open because of COVID-19. So many overheads cannot be met with a budget deficit of maybe close to about 800,000. Government at one time indicated that we were going to assist schools with funding, but later on we heard it was more to do with balls, something like that, even though the budget you mentioned was about 600 million. How are you going to cushion parents so that when the schools decide to increase fees, the parents are not forced to pay new fees to cater for the school budget when they open schools next week, when the students who are just coming back is maybe just 1%. 284 students are likely going now to cater for 1.1 million, which is the total budget for the school. That's what they're seeing now in most schools. What is government going to do about
I think I got the question. That's a very long question. I have very questions because I wanted to understand what the question is. All right. Okay.
Okay.
Mm.
The next round.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Blessed Mklang, Hatu South TV region. My question goes to the chair. Chair, I want to understand that as the entire spectrum of the economy is opening, there's one sector that government appears not intent or does not want to see open. This is the private players in the transport sector, the conduit and railways. Why the reluctance to ensure that transport there is a free flow of transport? My other question goes to the Minister of Tertiary and Education. We have noted that some universities are now quoting fees in USD. Government insists and continues to pay people in RTGS, although itself continues to receive and make people pay in USD. Why is it cruel?
Okay, that's
More than four. Some, like Blessed is always asking two. And Sunny also did ask two. I think we have got to thank you very much. The first question was directed to the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, Honorable Matema. He actually saying teachers have indicated that they are not in the best way. They are making PPE, the lack of PPE, low salaries, and he wants to know what the government is going to do. They've already moved to the opening up of
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The question is from Olitan Movie. Yes, as we all know, the government and the representatives of government employees are in the middle of discussion. Negotiations are going on. That is the strike I'm hearing for the first time. The PPE issue, all teachers will receive PPE, they will be protected, the learners, the teachers, the non-teaching staff, everybody will be protected. In fact, we're in the middle of, I'm going to Mashingo tomorrow, just see the other officials and the deputy ministers in all over the country, to make sure that all the necessary preventative measures and so you can rest assured what is required at each school, at each part of the school, will be available when the school is open. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Matema. And the next question, again from the same questioner, this is directed to the Minister of Industry and Commerce, Dr. Benza. He wants to know how many people are exposed to hunger because it's now
I want to thank Consanguine for the question. It relates to the Zimba report. The role of the Zimba report is to measure vulnerability and the level of hunger in the country. We have the statistics, and the statistics are gathered from key informants at village, district, provincial, and national levels, right across Zimbabwe. Our data has shown that we are 95% accurate. And the variables for measuring poverty right across include looking at food insecure households, the level of health, education, and also levels of malnutrition. That way we were able to gather the data that then guides us in terms of policy and implementation. So in terms of having the exact number, we don't have the exact number, but we can say our data is 95% correct, which then guides us in terms of providing the safety net. Government is to be complimented for what it has done in terms of meeting the food insecurity of the nation. We've got coordinating committees, we have the disaster mitigation, as well as the social safety net through social welfare. And also throughout this year, government also introduced the roller meal subsidy, as well as the cash transfer. So overall, the government's response to hunger has been quite remarkable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dr. Benza. The next question is directed to the chairperson of the Inter-Ministerial Task Force on COVID-19, and this is coming from FRCQ, that's SAGC. And the question is, with all the opening up and the relaxation, does this not pose a risk to the people, the infection, to expose the people to this pandemic? Honorable Minister of Defense.
Thank you, Minister Mutamba. We received a report just yesterday from the Experts Advisory Committee, which did conduct a modeling exercise on the current local and international COVID-19 data, and they came up with a situation for Zimbabwe, which indicated that the figures which they have identified did not reach the model figures which show the positive effect of our own intervention, government efforts. What I want to demonstrate is that this is scientific, and whatever decisions we make are guided by science. And the decision for us to open is based on the statistics that we are currently receiving on a weekly basis. And any intervention to any possible challenges are well researched, and there is clear planning to make sure that preventive strategies are put in place to ensure that there won't be any spike in the pandemic. So we are very satisfied that government has managed to contain the virus, and the opening up will not affect our figures and our spending at the moment.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair of the Ad hoc Committee on COVID-19. Now we go to the next question for the first from Custom SABC, and he gave a long demonstration of the story of a school. It's called School B or A. Well, this is directed to you, Minister of Primary and Secondary Education. What he's trying to say is the school has got 1,300 normally. And now that's all about the school in the 10 and our children. That means the school is only getting 200,000 million. And what it means is the school can operate with a budget of about 800,000. What is government going to do to make sure the school can operate? Minister?
Thank you, Honorable Minister. For the start, we can all rest assured that no school will be closed for any reason, and absolutely clear there is fire or totally uncontrollable events that no school will be closed because of the limited tracking. The issue of school fees, all schools know the procedures. We won't allow any schools closed because the procedures have not been followed. All schools know the procedures, and all schools have either SDC, school development committees, or board members. Because we are talking not just of public schools, but of all schools in Zimbabwe, whether they are private and independent or mission schools. Therefore, they all know what they need to do for fees to go up. The procedure is very clear. Every increase of fees has to be permanent. And I have not received anybody from the school being complaining that they don't have enough money. And the doors are open, the physical doors are open, and the school will continue like it is going to continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The schools will be open. Now to Blessed Changa, having so. Yes, you were asking the chair, but we are talking here about private sector players in the transport sector, and it's part of the international transport issue which is being dealt with by the Ad hoc Committee, and then direct this question to you, Honorable Chair of Ad hoc Committee. Blessed wants to know why government is reluctant to open up private sector into public sector.
Thank you very much. The decision which was reached by government to make sure that ZUPCO enjoyed the monopoly that time was because our first target was not as wide as possible, and as we indicated earlier on, that the measures that we had in place were mainly targeting prevention as opposed to cure. And as we have been observing, the development, the number of new infections coming under control, and also the opening of quite a number of sectors, now we see a need to bring in other players. Originally, every private operator who wanted to operate had to register with ZUPCO. But we realized that ZUPCO also has some challenges. There are now new players in the economy, and therefore the need that we open up, especially intercity transport. Those that are legal, when the companies, they will be required to register with the Ministry of Transport. And we do hope that with that window, those companies will have to approach the relevant ministry and comply with the rules and the regulations. So they are not being bad if they are illegal, because we see a lot of them which are not roadworthy, some are not registered, and always avoid going through the official points. So we are ready to engage, but not in the shika-shika. That one is a no, it's a nuisance, but the companies, there's that opportunity where they can approach the relevant authorities, I think.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. And then last but not least, the first 4 questions. Universities, this was from Blessed Mutanyao again, and this is directed to you, Professor Mzila. It says universities are according to US dollars, and this government continues to take it to Zimbabwe dollars.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you, Blessed, for the question. Of course, it was not discussed in cabinet, but you require an answer, so I will give you an answer. There is no policy. Our policy, our ordinances that we sign are in Zimbabwe dollars. And there's no policy which says the universities should pay in US dollars. On the other hand, of course, I think there was some social media speculation for quoting fees and MSU and USEC. That's all fictitious. I mean, there is freedom, so people can play around with digits and so forth, but that's not true. The university ordinances that were signed in January are still in effect at this moment. I think.
Thank you, Professor Mzila.